Welcome to another edition of Believe in Giants. Bob Papa, two-time Super Bowl champion Carl Banks, trying to make some sense of the Giants' loss on Sunday against the Commanders, as it's the first time in NFL history a team has scored three or more touchdowns offensively, defensively not allowing a touchdown, and yet losing a game. And Carl, you could talk about the red zone defense and the fact that they held them to field goals and everything else, but at the end of the day, not forcing a single punt in this game and allowing the Commanders with a rookie quarterback to score on every possession is just something that you can't do if you want to have any chance to be successful this season.
No, you can't, Bob. But I mean, we should probably start from the beginning of, where the decision was made about the kicker, right? And there's a lot being said about, whether or not the Giants made the right decision. I don't know that answer, but I can say that two things can be true, right? I think fans do have a right to ask that question. Media can ask that question. I don't have the information. I don't know what went into the decision. But I can pretty much tell you, based on longstanding practice and experience, a lot of that is up to the player as well. So when a player says, I can go, that's when that final decision is made. They normally go out, they test things out, and then they'll say before they have to announce what is going to happen for their final game roster, they either add him or not. Now, was discussion about, the Giants only had 52 guys on the active game day roster. I don't have any information about that. So when I say two things can be true, the kicker somehow convinced the coaching staff that he was healthy enough to kick. So assuming he is, and he kicked off, the question is, if there was not a 95-yard return where the groin didn't come into play, but the hamstring popped, would it be an issue, right? It's not an issue until it is. So the kicking aspect of it was not an issue until he had to chase down a returner. So I think, it's just unfortunate. And it cost them a game one way or the other. Having a kicker would have helped them win the game. Not having one and having to go for 2-point conversions all the time did not help them. So, I think people are asking, they're not going to fire the coach over it. So just stop all of that. But it was something that, you have to ask the question. But I can just tell you, just based on, longstanding practices in this industry, the player tells the staff, if there's a question of whether he can go, the staff is not in that guy's body. So if he says, I got it, I can go, and you see with your eyes that he's kicking and he's making them from a pretty good distance in pregame, then they normally weigh on that side. But again, do they hedge their bet considering he popped up on the injury report on Saturday? So I don't know what went into those decisions, but I know what went into the decision to let him play is because he passed whatever test he had to pass during warmups. He felt comfortable, and I guess the coaching staff felt comfortable in letting him kick. So that part, is what it is. But the other part can be true too. Did they take a risk in not having another guy up? I don't know. That's, right now in hindsight, it looks that way, but I don't have the information of what went on or what went into that decision to not add another player, other than the fact that they were down a lot of different players. They were thin at linebacker too. So, that debate's going on. The coach is not going to get fired over it. It would have certainly contributed to them winning a game if they had somebody who could kick, though.
All right. So first of all, there's a lot of things that there's some misinformation that people are confusing with this narrative of, yes, they only have 52 players on their active roster. You're allowed to have 53. There's some roster juggling that's been going on. But they didn't go into the game shorthanded. You have to deactivate X amount of players going into the game every week anyway. It's not like Washington had 53 active players and the Giants only had 52. The Giants have 52 on their active 53 roster right now, and that will change. And you have to deactivate certain players, whether it's for health or just because you're deactivating because you need another position group. So let's clear that up, because Lord knows I've had a few people say, I can't believe they went into the game and they only had 52 players. I know that,
Right.
but that has nothing to do with the active roster count. Okay. Number one. Number two, look, and this is going to go to a bigger picture, like we're seeing in a much bigger picture within the scope of our country. There are Giants fans that are going to listen to what we have to say right now. And some will be like, okay, these guys are in the building. They know a little bit more, whatever. We've built up credibility to take their word. Then there's going to be another group of fans that are going to believe us implicitly. And then there's another group of fans that are going to just say that we're mouthpieces for the organization. Okay. There's nothing we can do. I'm going to just give you what I know, being in the building here this morning. He was medically cleared to kick. Whatever he had to do to prove to them that he was healthy prior to them having to do their deactivations, he had passed all of those tests. He was good to go. So they went into the game with him. You got to be their kicker. They were not concerned about this little groin injury that came up because he wasn't even designated as questionable or anything. It just popped up. They put it in there because if you remember this week, teams were listing hundreds of guys across the league injured because of the McCaffrey situation the week before with the 49ers. We didn't really kind of show up. And then all of a sudden, the guy after the game on Monday night against the Jets says, well, I knew I was going to start on Friday. And they're like, whoa. McCaffrey wasn't. So every team this week, their initial injury reports, they're listing anything. So they put Gano up there because he had a little groin scenario. But they were fully convinced that it was not going to be a factor in the game. If they had any thought process that this could really be a problem, they would have made some kind of roster move to have another kicker available, right? They weren't going into the game without a kicker. Secondly, his season last year was completely ruined by the opening kickoff blocked against the Cowboys, in which he, along with Andrew Thomas, both got hurt trying to make a tackle. He played through it with the injured knee, had a bad year, eventually went on IR. He's an older player. And let's face it, I've never played in the NFL, so everybody's competitive. But if he just lets Austin Eckler go and does not pull his hamstring trying to sprint after an NFL running back, we're probably not even talking about any of this.
Yeah.
Because it's not the groin that got injured. He injured his hamstring. Just like last year, Andrew Thomas injured his hamstring on the blocked field goal. These guys aren't built to run and chase people.
Right. And
they're not corners and receivers that can turn around on a full sprint and go chase somebody like Jason Pinnock did in getting Robinson to the ground and saving 4 points. They're not wired for that. That's how they get hamstring injuries.
Right. And to clear something up, the groin does not, it's not a precursor to a hamstring. So that one didn't have anything to do with the other. So
yeah, it's a guy who's in his late 30s trying to run down Austin Eckler. You got no shot. And really, I'm surprised that Graham Gano didn't learn his lesson from last year. And I mean, again, he's competitive. They're all competitive. You don't want to have a kickoff return on your ledger as a kicker. I get all that. But Don Shula used to threaten to fine Dan Marino when defensive players can hunt quarterbacks after an interception, literally hunt them and try to knock them out of the game. He told Marino, I'll fine you if you throw an interception and don't immediately run off the field. Get off the field. Gano's got to
Yeah.
just get out of the way and not try to make this hero play. So some are going to believe what I have to say and what you have to say. Others are going to just say that we're mouthpieces. I don't care anymore. We're trying to educate people on what the deal was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Now,
I think that's a great segue into when you say he's competitive. He was being competitive. The competitive juices were flowing. I took issue last week with this Giant team that did not compete. I will say, without question, they competed in this game. The players that I actually spoke on last week, one being the quarterback, thought he played a really good game. Now, there would be people saying, well, how can you say he had a good game and he only threw for 100 plus 200 yards or something like that? You judge the quarterback on his decision making, because his decision making last week was what drove everybody nuts, right? He just did not operate the offense. Sunday, he operated the offense. He looked like he was in charge of the offense at all times. So, hats off to Daniel Jones. That's one in a row. Keep it going, okay? Another guy that I thought, and I spoke on, and I thought he had one hell of a disruptive game, was Kayvon Thibodeau. I also said that your best players have to be your best players every game. And he showed up. Brian Burns showed up. And you might not see his sack totals, but they were very disruptive. And you had other players. The offensive line, and I'm not sugarcoating, I'm not painting this rosy picture. They still lost, and we'll get to that. But this offensive line was the reason why Daniel Jones looked really in charge and in control of this offense. The run game rushed for 6 yards a carry. That's impressive. Devin Singletary ran the ball well. Costly turnover. Yep, that hurt them too. You had a rookie. His name is Drew Phillips, folks. Get used to hearing his name. He is balling out of control right now. He is a hell of a tackler, not afraid of anything. Played his ass off. Jason Pinnock had one goof in terms of holding, missed an opportunity for an interception, still played a really active game. Now that's the good, right?
and what
Your rookie wide receiver.
Just to follow up on the competing part, Pinnock, it looks like Brian Robinson's gone.
Yeah.
Pinnock got him to the ground with all-out effort, and it saved the Giants 4 points because they held them to 3.
Yep. And that was probably a difference maker in that game too. And that's competing. That's giving a damn and wanting to win a football game. Malik Neighbors, he was as good as advertised. The fact that he missed one that could have helped win the game and it bothers the hell out of him, that's a good thing. Not good in the moment because they needed that catch to give them a chance to win the game or to go ahead in the game. But the fact that it mattered afterwards. I know you guys are saying, yeah, Carl, but, they lost and you're making excuses for them. Nope, that was the good. Here's the bad. The bad is they could not stop a nosebleed when they needed to. Every third down, If it's a 3rd and 1, they gave up 10 yards on the run. If it's a 3rd and 13, they gave up 14 yards. If it was another 2nd and 10, they give up a 32-yard run. Like, think about this. 3rd and 8, they give up a 20-yard pass. 3rd and 1, they give up a 40-yard run. 2nd and 10, a 34-yard pass that ends the game. So I gave you everything that you would want to feel good about in a win, but they lost. They were really good in the red area, but guess how they got there? I can tell you how they got there. They got there with a 40-yard run on 3rd and 1. They got there with a 20-yard pass on 3rd and 8. They got there with a 3rd and 13 to 16-yard pass, 2nd and 10 in a 32-yard run. That's how they got there. So the fact that they were able to hold the rope, so to speak, is not a consolation for playing bad and letting them wiggle off the hook. There were so many good plays on either 1st or 2nd down, and then they just, for some reason, did not have the situational awareness or the proper technique to get off the field. And that is concerning, right? And I would say they're a defense that's not coordinated. And I don't mean that from a coaching standpoint. I mean that from a player awareness standpoint. Like, if you can play 2 good downs, then get yourself together to get off the field. If it's a 3rd and 13, play the 3rd and 13. Don't play the 3rd and 15. You gave the guy room, right? If you tell me that Terry McCurlin was held at 29 yards and Jaden Daniels, for all he did, was not the reason the game got out of control. They somehow figured out how to corral him. Yes, he got his yards, but he was not the reason, right? And you let their 2nd wide receiver have the biggest play of the game.
He's not even their 2nd wide receiver, Noah Brown. He's their 4th. McCaffrey and De'Ami Brown are ahead of him.
Well, there you go. So you got the fourth best wide receiver on the team makes the biggest play of the game because you're not coordinated in understanding the situation, right? You don't have to give ground. You don't give cushion to a 4th receiver. You're good enough to cover that guy. If it's McCurlin, I understand it. But your 4th guy, you make him earn it, right? Yeah, I mean, so these are the things.
Flott played that against Noah Brown as if it was Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
They gave him a big cushion, and then he got scared he was going to beat on a go route. I think you and I could run with Noah Brown.
Well, here's the thing. Therein lies the problem with this defense, right? Your best players. I say your role players have got to be attention to detail. And what have we said all year long, all summer long, about the biggest concern with Cordell Flott is that he's inconsistent, right? So this is going to be the difference. And fans, I get it. You can say it's over. But for those guys in that locker room, in order for it not to be over for them, it's going to take role players knowing what their role is and paying attention to detail. Because you don't give cushion. This is your chance to get off the field. And just the inconsistency of Cordell Flott is, just not, it's not coordinated. Well, right? They had, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's like picking, you're 100% right. I watched the coaches tape this morning of Washington's offense against the Giant defense from the all-22 and each end zone look. So like on the 40-yard Robinson run where the Giants had it like all bunched up, John Bates, the tight end, literally takes Thibodeau and washes him. He gets an A+ for that. Okay. He washes him. But Flott's coming up to Phil. And for some reason, Flott decided to follow Bates and Thibodeau toward the middle. And Brian Robinson just looks, and it's like he's running right
Hey there.
like just look up. And I'm not saying that you're going to blow up Brian Robinson, but it gets some on him for somebody else to rally and help you get him down. And that's that's a 3-yard gain instead of 40.
Right. So here's how it works in short yardage situations, right? You have frontline players and you have second line players. Your second line players, either safety or corner, right? All they are eyes. They come, and if something's open and the back leaks out, boom, he goes in and fills it right away, right? Because, and I don't know, I don't know what type of defense they had. I don't know if they were slamming or whatever that allowed Robinson to go out, but whatever it is, they got the line washed down. If you're the last line of defense, what are you looking at? You've got to see the ball carrier. Those guys are not, they are the last line of defense for a reason. They're not to get caught up in the wash. They are eyes. All they're doing is watching the play. And if something leaks out, they are untouched. They're unblocked. And they just go up in there, make a play, or get enough of a guy so that these guys can get off blocks. But that is the inconsistency, or the lack of coordination, or the lack of situational awareness. Knowing in these situations, I'm the last line of defense. I'm the secondary defender. I got to be eyes, more so than physical, because I am going to take anything that leaks out, even if it were play action pass, right? And they got everybody sucked in, you're the guy, right? But in those situations, they have you back there and you're clean. Now, it sounds like I'm shitting on Cordell Fly, and I'm not, but I'm just saying it is what it is. He's got to be more consistent. Every one of these young players who do not have playing experience, and this is not, I'm not shitting on him. I'm saying it as a general rule. If you're a young player and you don't have a lot of experience, your job is to make sure you pay attention to detail. Situational awareness is the number one thing that will kill you when you play young players. Right. You see the big plays given up.
And so Coach Daboll did his press conference earlier, and he talked about, we've got to be better in our execution of our run fits. Well, for the average fan listening, they don't really know what that means. You're explaining exactly what it means. And if you look at that play on the coach's tape, or you look at various other runs that they had, you will be able to see what Carl Banks is talking about. It's, it's kind of like, use a Belichick line, again, do your job. If your job is to fill in this area, or in that case, Flott to fill in this area if things are getting washed, or whatever it is on various plays.
Or whoever it is also.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
not be.
Well, listen, right. when a guy averages 9 yards a carry against you, or 8 yards a carry against you over the course of a game,
it ain't just Flott.
Everybody shares in the responsibility,
Correct.
right? So Carl is trying to explain to you guys what exactly, because most people don't know run fit. What does that mean, really? Well, here's what it means, and Carl just laid it out for you. And if you watch the coach's tape, you can see where they got themselves out leveraged because they weren't in their proper run fits. Now, some of this might have to do with a new defensive coordinator and them getting used to this system. There's some young players on the team, not trying to make excuses. It's got to be better. We all agree to that. Yeah. But, even offensively, Daniel Jones had one poor series. There was 3 passes. They were all incomplete. It was, I think, a 3 and out and a punt. But other than that, it's hard. You talked about the numbers. There are a lot of quarterbacks that won with numbers in which they didn't throw for 200 yards this week. Mm-hmm. But it's hard to have numbers when you never have the ball. I mean,
that part. That part. The first half, they were 3-1 in time of possession.
Correct.
Yeah.
3-1 time possession, plays run. And then again, we talked about this in the past. They're not talented enough at this point in time to overcome certain types of mistakes. So you get the ball to start the third quarter, and you're moving the ball flawlessly. You've got a rhythm. They can't stop you. They can't stop the Giants. And Singletary makes a great read, makes a nice run. And he'll be the first guy to admit this to you. Because I think he even talked about it on one of our My Best Moves on one of our Giants TV shows about, hey, when you get to the outside, make sure you move the ball to the outside arm. He keeps the ball in his right arm. St. Juice punches at it, knocks it out. Chin recovers it inbounds. The probabilities are as he breaks to his left and he's running along that left sideline, if that ball's in his left arm, when St. Juice punches it out, it's going out of bounds.
Going
And
out of bounds. Yeah.
I don't think Washington's stopping the Giants on that drive. So that's another drive.
So wait, let me just stop you right there, Bob, and say this point. That's the difference between good teams and teams with potential to be good. The attention to detail. Singletary's no rookie. That's a mistake. Your best players have to be your best players in all situations. So for him, and it bothered him because I saw him on the train. He sat by himself the whole time. He knows that was a play that let his team down. It was a missed opportunity for his team to really put something. So again, the game, when you are physically in a game, now the game is here. You have to play it. Then you start to really pay attention to the details. You felt their punch. You know what you can give them. And now it's like, okay, let's use our head as well as continue to play the type of game we play. Rookies especially. There's nothing that kills a rookie more than lack of situation where they could play the right technique and be at the wrong distance. See it a lot. You're playing goal line, you know you're the last line of defense. You're untouched. That's a good thing. But then you don't touch anybody because you're not using your eyes, your eye control when you're those guys. So this is growing pains for young defensive backs. Some of them had it Pinnock had some game experience. And you can see he made his share of plays. He held on one play. He got his lunch taken from him, which he shouldn't have. He should have fought for that interception, right? But he contributed. He was a guy that saved your bacon from a touchdown on an 80-yard run or a 40-yard run. So these are the things, people, that will make you say, can they really do it? Because they couldn't be stopped until they stopped themselves. But then again, they couldn't stop anybody because they couldn't get everybody on the same page. Oh, but wait, they were down in the red zone and they held them all to all field goals. But the fact that you let them get down there when you had opportunities. Another case in point, they're spying Jaden Daniels, right? And they're spying like shallow so that he doesn't have a lot of room to run. I think that was the 3rd and 13, and he got 16. 3rd and 13, he got 14. So Isaiah Simmons, who I said would be great at tracking and chasing, has him, gets faked out. Daniels gets another 2 yards first down. He probably has him for probably 2 yards shy of the first down. He's probably at 11 when he misses him. Again, little things, right? Look, you're fast enough. You got there. You were right there at the point of attack. You didn't settle down and make the tackle, right? Those are the little things that say, okay, yeah, I see. There's some things they're doing well, but for me, I'm looking at the things you're not doing that you can very easily make a game much easier for yourself when you do those things, because when you have your best players being disruptive, Bobby Okereke disruptive, both the bookends were disruptive. Dexter, right? because they had their share of negative yardage. The Commanders did. So they were being disruptive up front. But then, like you said, they were down the red zone 7 times. So there were some things that were missed. Got to get cleaned up to show in your locker room that you're better than you are. It's going to take a lot more for the fan base to be convinced of that. But there are some things that I just highlighted that you can look at and be like, okay, if they get this straightened out, they're going to be okay. But there's going to be a sector that says they'll never get it straightened out because that's who they are. I want to see if they can prove those guys wrong.
BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline, every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Hey, you think you know your stuff? Get in on the $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week. Chance to win weekly prizes and a share of $200,000 when the game's over. Head over to the online casino, blackjack, poker, over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. BetOnline. The game starts here. I want to share with our audience, Carl, something that I really enjoyed watching, and nobody saw it during the game because it was during an end of the quarter break. But, you know, when Jason Pinnock got called for that hold on that 3rd down against Zach Ertz, he went over to the official who made the call. And I thought this was really cool because it looked like he was trying to learn on the fly. So he went over to the official and he kind of tried to recreate the situation because Ertz had hands on him too.
Right.
And I understand why they called it. And he held him coming into his break. But he was trying to explain to the ref and ask the ref questions of like, all right, if he's got hands on me and is kind of holding me and redirecting me, how am I supposed to stop that from happening so I can get back into my form? And the ref actually kind of had put his hands up and he was showing him, and then Jason was showing him kind of what happened. And it was like, and it's not like he walked away like yelling at the official or the official.
Right.
Like they actually were having like almost a think tank training session. And I'm like, I guarantee the next time that Jason Pinnock gets in that situation, he's going to have a better idea of how to manipulate it because he got like feedback from the official.
Well, here's the other part of that too.
He's
Phil
a
Simms
smart
told
guy.
me. Yeah, and this the other part about that is he now gets the benefit of the doubt because Phil Simms told me that hack. He says you go to if you want to get away with something, you go referee, you learn their names, and you say, "Hey Jerry, hey, I'm gonna be pretty rough with this tight end. So I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do. You tell me if this is gonna be called for holding or interference. I'm gonna get my hands right here." He's like, as long as they don't get out here, you're gonna be fine. I had him out there a lot of the game on Ben Coates. You know, every time Ben would be screaming, and the referee, the side judge would say, "Carl, you got to get him in next time." Oh, okay, I got you. That's the benefit that Jason Pinnock gets. Like if he now goes to a referee or any of these DBs, if they're going to play a physical wide receiver, they go to those officials who are watching that. And you say, look, I'm going to try to do something. This guy is going to be, you know, he's going to fight for it and I need to maintain my position. How can I best do this? This is what I'm thinking. You tell them that before the game and watch how that flag doesn't fly. You know, because listen, as much as we see flags, if you communicate with those guys what you're trying to do, and they say to you, it's just like when they line up and they ask the referee, "Hey, am I on the line or am I behind the line?" You talk to them one time, they normally tell you, you need to move back. It's the same principle. And when you do that, and hats off to Pinnock for doing that. So now he does that pregame, watch and see what happens. He'll get away with a lot more, or it'll be a more fair fight, put it that way.
Yeah, and I used to see when I was the voice of the Nets and, you know, radio would sit courtside, you know, you'd see players during timeouts, work officials. You know, everybody knows all the officials' names, but they kind of would talk to them about certain things, about maybe the call that was made or whatever. And yeah, sometimes you get the benefit of the doubt, or now you know, hey, it's almost like, hey, if this is going to be physical, this is what's going to happen. And the officials have it in their head. I thought it was a really veteran savvy move from a younger player. Um, Look, Carl, I know there's a lot of noise out there, and there's a certain segment of the media that is this kicking thing is becoming like Watergate, and this is the end of this regime and
Yeah,
all this other stuff. Look, nobody's happy about what happened yesterday. Okay.
right.
We know Gano is going to be out for a couple of weeks, but the only thing I could say is like for our audience, we're in the building, we're with the team traveling. We understand the inner dynamics of what's going on that the media is not exposed to. And look, everybody's disappointed on a Monday. You got 24 hours to put it away. But there
Mhm.
are enough things from a football standpoint that you see on the field and what happened on Sunday that you are going to try to build off of. Like this whole thing about the walls are caving in on Brian Daboll and it's the pressure and all this other stuff. It's speculative clickbait stuff that's not a reality of what the temperature is in the building. And the temperature in the building right now is what that would be for any team that's 0-2. Okay.
Sure.
Any team that's 0-2. It's a competitive business. They all do this to win. But for it to be portrayed as Armageddon, because I got fans texting me because they're reading some of what these beat writers are
Yeah.
saying. Dude, it's not reality. It's not how things work in pro sports to start with. Now they're going to have a tougher game this week. We're going to preview this. We're going to preview the Cleveland game. The Browns are much better defensively than Washington is. But like I have confidence in this Giants offensive line to continue to get better because this group as constituted did not play together much in the training camp. And the quarterback's definitely slowed down and he definitely was more authoritative in his decision making. And Neighbors is
Yep.
finding his form a little bit more. And are there more things they can do offensively? Absolutely. But you know how you do more things offensively? You stop the other team a little bit and you now have time of possession lopsided. But
Yeah. And here's another thing too. And I talk about young players' attention to detail. Um, Brian Daboll called a pretty good game offensively. He's got a lot of other tools that he hasn't used. And like I said in training camp, he likes to use every crayon in the box. So I say that to say to the young wide receiver named Jalen Hyatt, stay ready, close off the noise. I know you may be disappointed because you had a hell of a camp, but I will say this to you right now if you're listening. Shut the noise off. Make sure you stay locked in because your number going to get called because with the speed that he can put on the field versus whoever he's going to do it, stay ready because it's going to be a lot of noise. And he's a competitor. He wants to be out there because he had a hell of a camp. Trust that this coach is gonna I'm telling you right now, if it's 100 crayons in the box, he wants to use every one of them. At some point, he's gonna get the combination he needs, and then your time will be there, and it's gonna be a contribution. But if you're a young player who's currently playing, you need to make sure that you're staying locked in and paying attention to details. Stay coordinated, right? Um, your best players keep being your best players. If you're a talented guy like Hyatt, don't let the noise get to you because there's a lot of people chirping. And I know you hear it. Just keep working with Coach Grow and be ready when they call your number because there's going to be a time when he needs to put speed on the field and let him just go for it. And then keep in mind, this was the season where Daboll said he wants to go down the field. He's got the tools. Well, part of why he hasn't done that yet is the quarterback, right? The quarterback didn't play well the first game. Second game, he took, I think, 2 shots down the field. Both were to Neighbors. Well, you had Slayton on the field, you know he can go. And then if they put you on the field, which they've had in camp many a times, then Neighbors gets the attention, you guys get the ball. And then once they have kind of a dose of what the speed looks like, they got to play everybody honest. But just stay ready to go. Young players, if you guys want to get out of this place, your competition was good. Now pay attention to detail. And the guy that's as talented as Jalen Hyatt, just stay ready to go. Don't pout and get in there and not know what to do, because that just puts you further down.
Anything else? I mean, we're going to do a preview of the Browns, who obviously are very good defensive. We'll talk about that later in the week. But anything else on this thing?
No, that's all I got. That's all I got. I think we covered most of it.
All right. As we like to say, how do we like to end it?
Tell a friend to tell a friend. Believe in Giants.
Giants.